Whether you have a small garden, a large homestead, or something in between, chances are you're going to need some good tools to be able to get your work done. Today, we're going to show you the top 5 tools that we're using here on our homestead as a part of day 24 of the 40-day Cultivating Real Life Homestead Challenge. Oh my goodness, the sun is out and it feels fantastic out here. Welcome to day 24 of the 40-day Cultivating Real Life Homestead Challenge. And today we're talking about homestead tools. You know, there's a lot of different kinds of tools that you've got to use whenever you're working a garden, whenever you're working land, when you're working with animals. So we want to show you some of the ones that we use today. So the first one for me is, since we live out here in the country, we have a ditch up next to the road, and it's very nice. It gives us certainly good protection from the road, but it's also really difficult to trim, to keep it cut. And the problem with that is that it can get really, really tall and quickly. And when you've had a lot of rain lately like we have, it definitely grows. Now it's very nice, the State Department of Transportation comes by about once a month and they use their big mowers and they'll cut it, and that's helpful. But it's not enough because it does grow really fast, like I said. So I have gotten a tool, actually I just picked it up this week, and I want to give it a try today, and it looks like this. I don't really know the exact name of it. I'm sure I can find it and put it in the show notes, but it's kind of like a little miniature scythe. And I've seen these around lately. A lot of people are talking about using you've probably seen them before to chop weed or tall grass, things like that. Well, this is a much smaller version. As a matter of fact, this is probably more along the lines of a residential tool, but I think it'll work for our ditch. Now you might be wondering, hey, why don't you just use a weed eater and cut all of that? Well, I do, but the problem is that the weed eater, it pollutes, so that's not good. But for the bigger problem to me is that it just chokes out a lot. There's so much to cut up here that it ultimately just bogs down. It runs out of string, it runs out of gas, the carburetor clogs, something along those lines. So I want to give this a try, and that's what we're going to do today. So I've walked up here by the road. It might be a little bit louder. There's always trucks or things that are rolling by out here, but this is the ditch. And as you can see, the grass gets really tall. So it's a job to stay on top of it. So we're going to give this tool a try to see if it will cut it back. Well, one thing, as you can see, it flings the grass everywhere. That's not a problem, but it's also a heck of a workout. You see, you are swinging this thing back and forth, full arms, everything, just to be able to cut it. So I think I'm gonna get a good workout here. Well, that is some serious work. Maybe even a little more than I anticipated, but it's still good. And I can tell you, I don't need a gym membership with that kind of workout. So I'm pretty sure if I keep working here all afternoon with this, my forearms are going to be very, very tired. The second tool I want to show you today is actually one of the coolest and one of the neatest tools that I think I've come across in a while, and it's this one. It's a long blade. This is it's a 16-inch hand sickle, and what you do is you use it for simply grasping and cutting larger weeds. Melinda gave this one to me for Christmas this past year, and I couldn't wait to get outside and use it. So now that we've got a lot of weeds coming in, this is getting a good workout. So let me show you what it does for us. So there you have it. That one's just that simple. And let me tell you, these teeth on this blade are very, very sharp. So it does a great job. You just have to be careful in using this. Now, do you need this if you don't have a homestead? I think you do, because there's a chance that even if you just have a small garden, maybe even a large garden in a neighborhood, you're still gonna have weeds and you're still gonna need to get them up, and they come up in clumps, and this takes it out and quickly. When I was working on weeding and getting the garden area ready just a few weeks back, I was reacquainted with the good old garden hoe. You remember this tool, right? It's just a blade, it's on a long handle. You can use it to chop, pull. It'll even do a little bit of tilling if you need to. This has, I didn't initially plan on this being one of my most important tools. I had another tool called an action hoe that I thought was really good at weeding, but this thing went to work like no other. Now, how do you find a good garden hoe? I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there today. You can go to any big box store, you can go to a hardware store, you can find a lot of good ones. This one is an older, weathered one. I like the fact that it's a wooden handle. I still prefer to have those whenever I can. I think that it's a little bit more durable. And then I also wear gloves, so I'm not concerned when I'm using it, so I'm not concerned about getting splinters. But the main thing you're looking for is a good blade, one that is not dented, banged up, or beyond generally good repair, because you're gonna put this thing to work. This has definitely made its way back up onto my list of one of the best tools that you need to have in your homestead. Any tool where you're going to have some kind of a blade, whether it be a lawnmower blade or this, probably not the hand sickle that I was showing you earlier, but anything where you've got a flat blade that's going to be doing some cutting for you, one of the things you're going to need is a good blade sharpening rasp. This is one that I picked up some time back. I think it was a Tractor Supply, but it is great. It's got ridged edges there, so that way it's able to file. So sometimes these will go by the name of a sharpening file, but all you're able to do with it really is just take it and run it right over that edge. Now, sharpening is a special skill, and it's one that I've not fully mastered yet, but I've been able to bring these and other tools to a really good point so that they'll work very, very well. And as I said, when you're going to be using this to chop into the ground, to be able to chop at weeds or to pull things out, you want a good sharp edge. It's going to make your work a lot easier. And one of those tools that you need to keep in your toolbox, at least for your garden or homestead, is a good sharpening rasp. Before I forget, one more thing about a good sharpening tool. As I said, learning how to sharpen, I believe, is a skill set that is something that you need to be able to master if you're going to be working with a lot of tools. I am trying to do that right now. I found a great video some time back, and I'm going to link to it right up here, and it'll take you to a channel where there's a guy named Art who showed about the no pun intended, the art of sharpening and how he was able to use some of the tools that he had access to, really to just bring a good fine point to a lot of his blades. So check that out if you're interested in learning more about using a tool like this or others to bring a good fine point to your blades. The final tool that I want to show you is one that's helpful if you've got a compost pile, if you're going to be moving mulch, if you're going to be moving animal manure. You've got to have the classic pitchfork. Now I've got two of them here, and I've used a few different pitchforks through the years. When we used to get mulch when we lived in our suburban house, we found it much easier. It was much easier to use a pitchfork to move mulch than it was to use a shovel. So we've acquired a few different pitchforks through the years. So I'll start with this one first. This is a much smaller pitchfork. It's just a few feet long, maybe about 3.5 to 4 feet in height. It's got big, strong tines. You can use this if you're shoveling animal manure, or if you are working with mulch or compost. It's pretty good. It's harder for me to use just because of my height. I've got to bend over a lot further to get down to the ground to use it, since I'm 6 feet tall. So what I prefer is actually this one. And I know earlier I said that I really prefer ones that have the nice wooden handles, and this is a wood handle, though it has been painted. But what I like is that I can get a great grip on this one. The tines are a little bit thinner, so it makes it a little bit lighter actually, and then I'm really able to get in and I can drive into the compost or whatever it is that I'm getting ready to turn, and I think I've got a lot more control over it. This one is made by Cobalt. I think we got it maybe at like Lowe's or somewhere like that, but I like this style just because I feel like this one is a little bit easier to use. And if I had to say what was my #1 tool that we use on the homestead, it's probably this one, because we touch this more than just about anything else that we use. Okay, let me give you a quick look at how this one works and the power that it has in being able to turn our compost pile. Our compost pile hasn't been turned in a few days because it's been raining so much, so it's due for a little fluffing, so let's check it out. So really, it's just that simple. This thing's super light. Now with that said, just like with the weeding tool I was using earlier, you get a great workout. I think I've belonged to gyms before. I've done triathlons in my life, and the workout that you get out here, working in the garden, working with the chickens, working anywhere on the homestead, second to none. So it's fantastic. But here's one little secret. As soon as I walk away, within a matter of minutes, the chickens are going to be all over this pile. Why? Because there's all kinds of little microorganisms in there that they want to come and try to eat. So we'll step back and we'll let them get to work, see if they come and check it out. See, what did I tell you? Knew that those girls, they would get over there and they would start scratching and digging around in it. Look, that's one of the reasons why we put a lot of the piles of leaves to make leaf compost out here in the garden over the winter, because we knew that the chickens would come along and they would scratch it. And when they do, they're doing a lot of great things to the soil. They're doing the work of tilling it for us. Hopefully that cuts down on the number of times I've got to use that hoe. I hope you've enjoyed our look at the top 5 tools that you need to have for your garden or homestead. But with that said, we don't have a lock on all of the good ideas, so we'd love to hear from you. Use the comment section and tell us, is there a favorite tool that you like to use? Or what kinds of questions do you have based on the ones that we showed you in here? And tell you what I'll do. I'll also include down below in the show notes the links to where you can buy some of these tools that we showed you today. Particularly that really cool hand sickle. I like that one a lot, and you can get that one for a pretty good deal. Thanks for joining us for day 24 of the 40-day Cultivating Real Life Homestead Challenge. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and don't forget, this is a wonderful chance for us to remember and honor those people that gave their lives in service to our country. Have a great Memorial Day. We'll see you tomorrow for day 25.